welcome to this deep dive. We're going to jump straight into a question that, well, it affects so many of you. How do you really unlock English fluency?
Yeah, it's a big one.
And today, we're zeroing in on a really powerful idea, something we've seen across a lot of the source material you've shared, the transformative power of conversation.
That's absolutely right. We've been digging through these articles, these notes, and this theme just keeps popping up. Actually talking, having real conversations. It's not just one way to learn English. The material really suggests it's arguably the most effective way.
Okay, so our mission here in this deep dive is to pull out the key insights from all this. Why does talking make such a difference? Like, how does it actually work on your brain?
And crucially, what practical steps can you take? How can you actually harness this power, even if, you don't have someone to talk to right next door?
Exactly. Because the sources seem to grapple with this core question. Why do some people just seem to leap forward with English, get fluent fast, while others get stuck, even if they study a lot?
Right. And the answer that comes through isn't about being naturally gifted or, just memorizing more grammar rules. It seems simpler.
And maybe more active, more accessible.
Definitely more accessible. Okay, let's unpack this a bit. The central argument we're seeing, it's echoed everywhere in this material, is that speaking, having actual conversations is the catalyst. The people who learn fast, they're not always the smartest in a traditional sense. They're often the ones who just speak the most.
Speak the most, okay.
And the sources give some really compelling reasons, almost like physical brain reasons, for why conversations work so well. One big point is how it trains your brain in a very specific way.
How so?
They talk about building automaticity. See, when you're in a real chat, you just don't have time to mentally translate everything back and forth from your native language.
Right, you have to respond.
You have to respond, and quickly. So it forces your brain to make these direct links between the idea and the English words, skipping that translation step. One source used this image of forging pathways in the brain conversation is that forging process.
So it's like knowing the grammar rules is the map, but conversation is actually driving the car on the terrain.
Exactly that. And that need for speed, that real-time pressure, leads to the second point. Conversations force genuine language use.
Okay.
Think about it. You can listen to something passively or do a grammar quiz without much pressure, but a conversation, it demands you actively pull out words, build sentences, ask your own questions, understand replies you weren't expecting.
And react.
Yeah, it's like a full workout for the English-speaking part of your brain. One source put it nicely. You can't be a silent passenger in a conversation. You are the driver and the navigator simultaneously.
That really captures it. And it's not just about stringing words together grammatically, is it?
Oh, not at all. Which brings us to the third benefit. Conversations build real-world communication skills, things you just don't get from a textbook.
Like what specifically?
Well, the sources mention learning the nuances, how to, say, express doubt politely, or how to interrupt someone without being rude, how to tell a simple story that keeps someone interested, or show you're enthusiastic or frustrated in a natural way.
Ah, the stuff that makes interaction feel human.
Exactly. It's the interactive skills that make you a real communicator, not just someone reciting English facts. It's like learning the music, not just the notes. And tied right into speaking is listening, obviously. So the fourth point. Conversations sharpen your listening skills like crazy.
Because it's unpredictable.
Totally unpredictable. You have no idea what the other person's going to say next. So you're forced to focus, really listen hard, pick up on their tone, understand language the way it's actually spoken with pauses, berries, maybe different accents.
Yeah, not like hitting rewind on a video.
Not at all. It's active, adaptive listening. And the final point, maybe the most important one psychologically, conversations build confidence through action.
Action leads to confidence.
Yes. Several sources really hammered this home. Confidence in speaking doesn't just magically appear when you reach some imaginary level. It grows from the act of speaking.
Even with mistakes.
Especially with mistakes. Making them, realizing you were still understood, maybe getting a gentle correction every time you do that, it chips away at the fear and builds up your bravery. One quote was, "The courage to speak precedes fluency, and fluency follows the courage."
Wow, okay. That's powerful. So if conversations are this amazing engine, why do so many learners hit that wall? They understand videos, they read well, but then freeze up when they need to talk.
Yeah, the common problem. The material points squarely at a lack of actual practice, a lack of speaking miles, basically.
You know the map, but haven't driven the car, like we said.
Exactly. One source used that classic swimming analogy. You don't learn to swim by reading about it or watching videos. You learn by jumping in the water and, well, flailing around at first.
You actually have to do it.
You have to use the English to get good at use of English. It sounds almost too simple, but it's easy to forget when you're deep in study mode.
Right. But the sources also said, not all conversations are created equal for learning.
Ah, yes, that's a really crucial distinction they make. Not just any chat will do, ideally.
Okay, so what makes a conversation good for learning fluency, according to this material?
They highlight a few key things. First, it absolutely has to be two-way interaction, a genuine exchange.
Not just one person talking at the other.
Right. Both people need to be actively listening and actively speaking, responding, building on what the other says.
Makes sense. What else?
Second, there should ideally be some emotion and real interest. Learning sticks better when you're talking about stuff you actually care about.
Your hobbies, your day, travel, food, that sort of thing.
Exactly. Your work, your weekend plans. When you're engaged like that, your brain is just more switched on, more receptive. You remember the language better. One source even mentioned how emotional connection helps memory.
So, dish the boring textbook dialogues about Mr. Smith going to the bank.
Pretty much. Third, and this is huge mistakes need to be welcome. The vibe should be low stress. Trying is the goal, not perfection.
Mistakes are feedback, not failure.
Precisely. They're just signposts showing you what to maybe focus on next. You learn by trying and, well, sometimes messing up.
Okay. And the fourth point.
This kind of real interaction means you learn vocabulary and grammar in context. You hear words and structures used naturally, tied to a real situation or idea. That's way better for remembering how and when to use them than just memorizing lists.
It gives the language life.
It really does. And finally, number 5, it needs to be frequent and consistent.
Regularity.
Yep. Doesn't have to be hours every day. The sources emphasize that short, regular practice, maybe even just 10-15 minutes daily, is much more effective long-term than one massive, exhausting session once a week. It's about building that habit, keeping those pathways active.
Okay, this all sounds fantastic, super logical.
Yeah.
But I can hear someone thinking, great theory, but I don't have anyone to talk to in English. That's a real barrier for a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely. And the good news is the source material totally gets that and offers some really practical, maybe even surprising ways to practice conversation, even when you're alone.
Solo conversation practice, how does that work?
It's about building that active speaking muscle, even without a partner. First up, self-talk and monologues.
Just talking to yourself.
Yeah. Silently in your head is okay, but out loud is even better. Just narrate what you're doing. Okay, now I'm making coffee. Describe what you see outside. Wow, looks like rain. Plan your day out loud. First, I need to send that email then. It forces you to produce English about real things right now.
Kind of like being your own commentator.
Sort of. Second tactic, mirror practice. Stand in front of a mirror. Practice simple things, greetings, introducing yourself, answering basic questions like, how are you?
By the mirror.
It's not just the words. It helps you get comfortable with the physical act of speaking English, your mouth movements, your facial expressions, even your body language. Plus, you hear yourself. It makes it feel more real.
Okay, interesting. What else?
Third, record and reply. Use your phone. Record yourself answering simple questions like, what did you do last weekend? Or, tell me about your favorite movie. Or, what's one thing you want to achieve today?
And then listen back. Isn't that painful?
It can feel a bit weird at first, but the goal isn't harsh criticism. It's just to notice things. Where did you hesitate? Where did you search for a word? What parts sounded fluent? It builds self-awareness.
Yeah.
And you can track your progress over time.
Right, you can hear yourself improving.
Exactly. Fourth technique is shadowing. This is a popular one.
Mimicking native speakers.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
You listen to a short clip, a podcast bit, a line from a movie, and you immediately repeat it, trying to copy everything. The speed, the rhythm, the intonation, even the emotion.
So you're training your mouth and ears at the same time.
Precisely. It really helps internalize the natural sound and flow of English. And finally, while solo practice is great, the sources do acknowledge interaction is key eventually. So they mention using language exchange partners or AI tools.
Apps and stuff.
Yeah, apps like Tandem or HelloTalk to find real people to chat with. Or increasingly, AI tools like ChatGPT and Voice Mode can act as a pretty decent conversation partner for practice. Human, AI. The point is engaging in that back and forth. It all counts.
Those are brilliant, really practical tips. No excuses, really. The material even suggested we could sort of prompt you, the listener, right now, like a mini practice session.
Yeah, like a simulated chat. The idea is simple. We'll pose some typical casual questions. Imagine we're just friends chatting. Your job is to pause and actually answer out loud. Treat it like a real mini conversation.
Okay, so don't just think the answer. Say it. What sort of questions?
Things you'd actually get asked, like, what did you do yesterday? Anything interesting?
Or, how do you usually like to spend your weekends?
Maybe tell me about a place you really love. Could be anywhere.
What's a small goal you have for yourself today or this week?
And maybe, how do you keep yourself motivated when you're learning something challenging, like English?
So the idea is you pause after hearing one, give a spoken answer, maybe add a detail or two, just like you would in a real chat.
Exactly. It's that forced output that builds the skill. And to help you have things to say in these chats, the sources also listed categories of really useful everyday phrases. Worth practicing these until they feel automatic.
Okay, yeah, let's fire off a few examples they gave, like for small talk.
Essential stuff. Things like, how's your day going? Or what have you been up to lately? Simple, friendly connectors.
The absolute basics for starting any interaction.
Totally.
Yeah.
Then for giving opinions, moving beyond just, I think,
Right.
try things like, in my opinion, or, well, to be honest with you, or, I tend to feel that.
Sounds more natural, more confident.
It does. And for agreement, instead of just yes, use stronger, more active phrases like, I totally agree with you, or that's so true, or maybe exactly what I was thinking.
Nice. What about the tricky one? Disagreeing politely.
Yeah, that's key. The sources suggested gentle ways like, I see your point, but, or I'm not sure I completely agree with that, or even, that's an interesting way to look at it, although I feel. It keeps the conversation going respectfully.
Shows you're listening, even if you have a different view.
Exactly. And then just useful daily questions and answers about routines. What time do you usually wake up? Are you more of a morning person or a night owl? Practicing these just smooths out everyday interactions.
This is all fantastic practical advice. It really feels like it circles back to that core mindset the material kept highlighting.
Yeah.
You know, that you really don't need to be perfect to start speaking.
That's probably the single biggest takeaway, honestly. The sources were so clear. The vital qualities aren't perfect grammar right away or a flawless accent. What you need is consistency.
Showing up regularly,
Bravery.
just trying, even if it feels scary.
And curiosity. Being willing to learn, willing to ask. Every single conversation, every attempt to speak is progress. You are getting better each time.
So the message is, don't wait until you feel ready, because that ready feeling might just never arrive if you don't start practicing.
Exactly. Fluency isn't this fixed destination you reach after studying. It's the journey you take by using the language. You get better at talking by, well, talking.
Okay, let's start wrapping up this deep dive then. The core message from the material seems incredibly clear. Conversations are basically the fast track to fluency.
Yeah, they're the engine. And you can start building that engine right now, even practicing solo with simple techniques like self-talk or shadowing.
And the key mindset shift is forget perfection, focus on progress. You just need that bit of curiosity and the courage to actually speak.
Speak, practice, repeat. If you remember anything, remember that.
So the sources leave us and you with a really clear, actionable challenge for this week. How about this? Try to have just a 5-minute conversation with yourself in English every single day.
Just 5 minutes, talk about your day, your plans, what you're thinking about. If you're feeling brave, record it on your phone. Listen back. Don't judge harshly. Just notice one little thing you could tweak for next time.
Remember, every sentence, every word you manage to say out loud, it's a win. It's building that muscle, forging those pathways we talked about.
And maybe think about this. Embracing this idea of imperfect conversation, it does more than just improve your English skills. It starts to change how you connect with the world, doesn't it? It opens up doors, lets you engage more deeply, all because you took that brave, curious step to just talk.